Ladies and gentlemen, listen closely. There are moments in your life when everything seems quiet, when heaven seems still, and your prayers echo back at you like whispers in a cave. But I came to announce to you today, you're not being ignored, you're being prepared. There is a law in the kingdom that the world cannot understand. It is the law of divine concealment before heavenly release. God hides what He values. God conceals what is royal. Diamonds are never found on sidewalks. Gold is never lying on the surface. And the chosen are never immediately visible. You may feel like you've been in the shadows for too long, watching others get ahead, watching others be promoted, watching others take stages you know God designed for you. But I have a message from the throne of God. In just one day, God can make you public, and it will not be based on man's approval, but on His decision. 1. God hides before He reveals. You see, one of the most misunderstood principles in the kingdom of God is this: God hides what He values. In the natural world, we only hide what is precious. You don't leave diamonds on your front lawn. You don't store gold on the kitchen counter. Anything of value is protected, guarded, and concealed until the right time. And that's exactly how the King of Heaven operates with His chosen vessels. He conceals them not to punish them, not to delay them, but to develop them away from the eyes of the unprepared. Before God reveals you to the world, He must first refine you in private. He puts you in hidden places so He can work on your character, your discipline, your sensitivity to His voice. He puts you in situations where no one applauds you, no one calls your name, and no one recognizes what you carry, not because you are forgotten, but because you are being forged. You were never meant to be instantly visible. The kingdom doesn't operate on the world's schedule. While the world celebrates instant fame, God develops long-term impact. While the world rushes to be seen, God waits for a moment that will not just make you known, but make you ready. And readiness is not about popularity, it's about weight. It's about spiritual authority. It's about internal strength. It's about heaven trusting you with what earth cannot explain. Think about this. Before David ever held a crown, he held a harp in the field. Before he ever stood before Goliath, he stood before sheep. He learned leadership in silence. He cultivated worship without an audience. He discovered courage without a crowd. And it was in that field, the place of isolation, the place of obscurity, where God was molding him into the man that could carry the weight of the throne. You don't build kings on stages, you build kings in solitude. And when Samuel came to Jesse's house to anoint the next king, every brother was paraded in front of him. They looked the part. They were tall, strong, sharp, but the oil wouldn't flow. Because God does not choose by appearance. He chooses by assignment. The one God had chosen was not even in the room. He was hidden in the back in a field, singing songs to God under the stars. And when David walked in, the oil flowed instantly. What does that tell us? It tells us that your absence from man's stage does not disqualify you from heaven's call. God knew exactly where David was. And when the time came, God sent for him. The anointing will wait for you. Your destiny is not in the hands of people who overlook you. You don't need their invitation, you need God's command. You don't need their validation, you need His voice. And when God says, go get David, no one can keep you in the field. The field was not your final place. That's why Joseph could be thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, forgotten in a prison, and still rise to the palace. Because God hides greatness behind adversity. He conceals calling inside of crisis. He allows your gifting to sleep under layers of hardship, not to break you, but to shape you. Joseph was a dreamer, yes, but dreams alone don't qualify you for authority. It was the prison that taught him discipline. It was betrayal that taught him forgiveness. It was delay that taught him dependence on God. And when the day of revealing came, Pharaoh said, "Bring him to me." One day he was forgotten, the next day he was favored. This is the mystery of divine timing. You may be hidden today, but that doesn't mean you've been denied. It means God is preparing something so significant, so weighty, that He must first prepare you to carry it. And what He is preparing you for cannot be rushed. You don't pull a cake out of the oven halfway and expect it to feed the world. You let it bake, you let the heat do its work. You let the process complete itself. Because if the world sees you too soon, they'll see a version of you that is incomplete. And incomplete vessels cannot carry complete assignments. Jesus Himself was hidden for 30 years. Think about that. The Son of God, God in the flesh, spent 3 decades in silence before releasing His ministry for just 3 years. Why? Because preparation always precedes revelation. You don't skip the process and expect the promise. The quiet years were not wasted. They were the womb of wisdom. The carpenter's shop was not beneath him. It was where he learned patience. The obscurity was not punishment. It was proof that even glory must be managed with humility. Some of you are praying for God to reveal you, but if you were honest, you're not ready for that kind of weight. You're still moved by applause. You're still shaken by criticism. You still question your identity based on performance. And God in His mercy says, "I love you too much to expose you prematurely." Because premature exposure will destroy what premature preparation cannot sustain. So instead, He hides you. He puts you in places where nobody claps. He surrounds you with people who don't see your potential. He allows you to be underestimated so that pride dies and purpose lives. Moses was hidden in the backside of the desert for 40 years before God sent him back to Egypt. He had to lose the identity of Pharaoh's palace to find the authority of God's voice. He went from royalty to shepherd. But it was in the wilderness, not the throne room, where he encountered the burning bush. And when God spoke, it was not a suggestion, it was a sending. Moses came out of hiding because heaven was now backing him. And no Pharaoh could resist a man that had been in the fire of God. You may be in your own desert right now. You may feel like you've been forgotten. But I want to tell you, God hides before He reveals. And if you're hidden, it's because He's still building something in you that the world needs. He's still aligning your heart with His kingdom. He's still stripping away the things that would compete with His glory. Because when He reveals you, it won't be for performance, it will be for purpose. And when the moment comes, there won't be any confusion. People will say, "Where did He come from? Who is she? How did they rise so fast?" And they won't realize that what looked like sudden appearance was actually years of secret obedience. You were growing roots in silence. You were gaining wisdom in the shadows. You were getting closer to God in the quiet. And now that the season has shifted, the same God who hid you will reveal you. And they won't be able to ignore it. That's why you must not despise the hidden place. Don't curse the season where no one knows your name. Don't rush the process by trying to promote yourself. Let God do the unveiling. Let God write the narrative. Because when God reveals you, no man can rewrite what heaven has already published. Your emergence will not be the result of strategy. It will be the result of surrender. So remain faithful in the unseen. Stay obedient when it doesn't make sense. Worship when no one is listening. Study when no one is watching. Serve when no one is applauding, because the eyes of the Lord are not blind. He sees what man does not. He knows what's inside of you, and at the appointed time He will say now. And when He says now, no man can say stop. The stage is never bigger than the preparation room. The public place is never more important than the secret place. What God is doing in you is far more significant than what people are saying about you. And if you can trust him in the dark, he'll trust you in the light. Because that's how the kingdom works. God hides before he reveals. 2, public in a day, but private in private. One of the greatest deceptions in this generation is the illusion of overnight success. Social media has painted a false picture. One post, one video, one moment, and suddenly someone is known. Their name is everywhere, their face is on screens, and their words are echoed by the masses. But what you don't see, what you're not told, is the process behind the promotion. You don't see the nights they cried in silence, the years of discipline when no one was watching, or the private failures that shaped their public strength. You don't see the full story because the world only loves the highlight. But heaven is not in love with highlights. Heaven is in love with wholeness. You must understand something about God. He is not in a rush to make you visible. He's not desperate for you to become famous. God is more concerned about what's happening in you than what's happening around you. He will hide you. He will delay you. He will say not yet over and over again, not because he is punishing you, but because he is processing you for something your character must be able to carry. It only takes one moment for God to make you public, one divine encounter, one prophetic door, one unexpected announcement. God can turn your story around in 24 hours. That's not the hard part for him. But what takes time, what God is intentional about, is the internal structure that must be in place before the public stage arrives. Because if you are revealed before you are refined, the very platform that elevates you will eventually crush you. Fame is seductive and applause is addictive, and without a process, you confuse praise for purpose and spotlight for significance. This is why God takes his time with his chosen. He'll put you in a hidden place, a quiet place, and he'll strip away your dependence on visibility. He'll detox you from the need to be recognized. He'll teach you how to lead when no one is following, how to serve when no one is clapping, how to worship when no one is watching. He'll send you through the fire of obscurity so that when the day of visibility comes, you're not performing. David didn't become a king the day he was anointed. He became a king through years of pressure, betrayal, rejection, and isolation. The oil on his head was not a license for instant power. It was a prophetic marker of a process that would take time. He went back to the field after being anointed. He went back to serving his father, back to silence, back to being forgotten. Because anointing without process is immaturity with potential. And God will never release you to a throne that your soul is not strong enough to sustain. And so God begins to build you when no one's looking. He lets you face lions and bears in private before he puts a Goliath in front of you. He lets you win battles that no one celebrates, so that when you win the one the world sees, you know it wasn't by chance. It was because you were already fighting in secret. You don't kill giants on public stages unless you've learned how to win in private fields. Look at Joseph. One day he was a prisoner, the next day he was ruling beside Pharaoh. One day he was invisible, the next day he was indispensable. But the prison was not wasted time, it was training ground. It was character school. It was where he learned to interpret dreams, to manage emotions, to govern well. God was testing his stewardship in the shadows. Because how you manage little is how you'll manage much. If you can't handle delay, how will you handle dominion? If you can't endure silence, how will you withstand strategy? Some of you are praying for God to use you, but God is more focused on shaping you. Because the stage is not a gift, it's a weight. It's a responsibility. And if you arrive at your moment without the muscle of maturity, you will confuse the people's praise with God's pleasure. That's why God keeps you hidden longer than you want to be. He's killing the ego. He's quieting the insecurity. He's removing the fear. He's teaching you how to pray with depth, how to lead with humility, how to speak with authority, how to live with integrity. Because when you're public, you won't have time to learn. You'll have to live out what you already know. When God processes you in private, it feels lonely, it feels unfair, it feels like you've been forgotten while others run ahead. You'll see people with half your gifting walking into rooms you've prayed to enter. You'll see people promoted for things you were born to do. But don't be deceived. Promotion without processing is dangerous. What looks like favor may actually be exposure, and what feels like delay may actually be protection. God is not late. He's strategic. Every hidden season is holy. It's where God meets you without distraction. It's where you discover the real source of your strength. It's where motives are tested, where wounds are healed, where your identity is anchored in His voice, not their applause. Because if you come out of the process still addicted to attention, you'll compromise to keep it. But when you come out healed, whole, and hungry for only His will, there is nothing man can give you that can control you. Jesus went through 30 years of preparation before 3 years of ministry. Even He, the Son of God, did not bypass the private life. He was hidden. He was ordinary. He was in the carpenter shop, not on stages. And when He finally came forth, the heavens opened, the Spirit descended, and the Father declared, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." That's what processing does. It makes heaven proud before man even notices you exist. So many are chasing visibility, but they're skipping the vineyard. They want the wine without the crushing, the oil without the pressing, the crown without the cross. But it doesn't work like that in the kingdom. God is not impressed by your followers. He's measuring your faithfulness. He's not counting your likes, He's counting your obedience. He's not listening to the applause, He's listening to your heart. Because in the private place there's no performance, only presence. When God finally makes you public, it won't be because you marketed yourself well, it won't be because you had the right connections or the perfect brand, it will be because heaven said now. And when heaven says now, there's not a demon in hell or a gate on earth that can stop what God is releasing. When He brings you forward, it's because the assignment is ready and you are ready. Not perfect, but postured. Not flawless, but faithful. Not loud, but led. Don't rush your process. Don't curse your cave. Don't despise the days no one sees you. They are your training. They are your proving ground. And one day, just one day, when it seems like nothing is changing, God will step in and everything will shift. And you'll step into something you were prepared for, even when you thought you were being forgotten. What God is doing in you privately is far more important than what people are seeing publicly. Because when the lights are on and the pressure is real, the only thing that will keep you standing is what you built with Him in the dark. So don't be discouraged by the delay. Embrace it. Let Him mold you. Let Him break you. Let Him build you. Because when the day comes and God brings you forth, you won't just be visible. You'll be unshakable. 3, God's decision cancels man's delay. There comes a time in every chosen life when the verdict of heaven overrides the resistance of earth. A moment when divine authority steps in and says, enough. When God decides it is your time, there is no delay from man, no rejection from institutions, no scheme of the enemy, and no limitation in the natural realm that can hold back what heaven has ordained. God's decision is final. His decree is supreme. His will is not a suggestion, it is law. And when the King of Kings declares a thing, time must align, systems must shift, and barriers must break. You see, people may delay you, systems may overlook you, institutions may close doors on you. But when God speaks, delay loses its legal right to operate in your life. Delay is not denial, but it is also not permanent. It is subject to the voice of God. When God decides, what should have taken years happens in days. What seemed impossible becomes inevitable. what was withheld is released, because the authority of God does not negotiate with the timeline of man. For too long, many of us have measured our progress by the metrics of men. We look at how others are elevated, how doors are opened for them, how recognition comes early for some and not for us. We begin to believe the lie that we are behind, that we missed our moment, that our story is stuck. But let me remind you, God does not operate on man's calendar. He is not confined to the rhythm of earthly promotion. He works according to divine purpose, and divine purpose is not always visible until the season shifts. When God decides, He doesn't ask permission. He doesn't need votes. He doesn't submit His decision to committees. He speaks and creation responds. He commands and time bends. That is why you cannot afford to let human delay rob you of divine confidence. Just because man hasn't acknowledged you yet doesn't mean heaven hasn't assigned you. You are not late. You are hidden for a moment that requires God's command, not man's cooperation. Take Esther, for example. She was a Jewish girl, orphaned, unknown, and living in a foreign land. No title, no fame, no platform. But when the moment came and God decided to raise a deliverer, He orchestrated events that positioned her in the palace. Not because man planned it, but because God had already decreed it. What took others years to qualify for, she stepped into by favor, because when God decides, favor outruns protocol. When God decides, no amount of gatekeeping can stop your entrance. You may be like Joseph, stuck in a prison of misunderstanding, forgotten by people you helped, left behind by those you served. But Joseph's promotion was not tied to Pharaoh's mood. It was tied to heaven's clock. And when the time came, God gave Pharaoh a dream that only Joseph could interpret. That dream was the trigger. That dream was heaven's alarm clock. And in one day, God's decision canceled years of delay. The same Joseph who was overlooked became the one they couldn't live without. God has a way of flipping the script in moments. He has a way of turning tables so swiftly that even those who doubted you will have to adjust their opinion based on your new position. You don't have to chase approval. You don't have to force your way in. Just stay faithful. Because when God's decision manifests, the same people who forgot you will be forced to remember you. There are doors that man can shut, but there are also gates only God can open. And when those gates open, they do not creak, they burst. They explode with divine force, because they have been locked, not by men, but by timing. And when timing aligns with purpose, the delay is not just removed, it is redeemed. You don't just get what was withheld, you get it pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Because God doesn't just repay time, He restores destiny. Don't let the delay deceive you. Delay is often a sign of preparation behind the scenes. Heaven is working in silence while earth is stuck in questions. God is setting the stage, aligning hearts, preparing rooms, removing wrong connections, and arranging divine introductions. You may not see it, but in the background, everything is moving toward your moment. God is not ignoring your prayers. He's answering them by building a stage big enough for your purpose. And when He finally says now, it will make sense why you had to wait. It will make sense why the rejection happened, why the promotion didn't come, why the opportunity slipped. Because if it had come earlier, it would have crushed you. If you had walked through that door prematurely, you would have walked in immature, ill-prepared, or still chained to insecurity. Delay was not the enemy. It was the classroom. It was heaven's way of training your soul for what your spirit was already called to do. Jesus Himself moved in divine timing. He often said, "My hour has not yet come." Though He had power, though He had wisdom beyond any man, He waited until the timing of heaven gave the green light. And when the hour came, no man could stop the momentum. Crowds followed, miracles exploded, and the kingdom invaded earth in a way never seen before. But nothing happened until heaven decided. That's the model for the chosen ones. You don't force your moment. You recognize it when it arrives. You don't manipulate the path. You follow the leading. You don't strive for breakthrough. You prepare for it. Because when God decides to move, He doesn't need your hustle. He needs your readiness. There are moments where God's decision overrides every barrier. He speaks a word and systems shift. He declares a thing and chains break. He makes a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. That's why Isaiah 60:22 says, when the time is right, I, the Lord, will make it happen. Not man, not connections, not resources. I, the Lord. That verse is a declaration of divine sovereignty. It's a reminder that God's calendar will not be interrupted by man's delay. So don't let the wait make you bitter. Let it make you better. Don't let the silence make you cynical. Let it make you sensitive. Because when God decides to bring you forth, you must be ready in spirit, ready in posture, ready in heart. Ready not just to be seen, but to carry the weight of what being seen requires. Ready to lead with integrity, to serve with humility, and to remain anchored even as favor flows. Some of you have been overlooked for years. You've watched others bypass you, mock your calling, dismiss your dreams. But I prophesy to you today, God's decision is about to cancel man's delay. What you thought was lost is still alive. What was blocked is about to be released. And it won't take long. In one day, one shift, one divine yes, everything can change. Because when God decides, your name is called, your doors are opened, your voice is amplified. Not because of effort, but because of purpose. God is not late. He is not unsure. He is not trying to figure it out. He has already spoken over your life. His decision was made before the foundation of the world. He knew when to raise you up, how to position you, and what would be necessary for your manifestation. You don't need to fear the delay. You just need to remain faithful until the trumpet sounds. Because when it does, no man can hold you back. No history can disqualify you, and no system can block what heaven has released. When God decides, delay dies, and destiny rises. 4. Your revealing is for His glory. There is a divine reason why God does not reveal you when you want, how you want, or even to whom you want. It is not because He is playing with your emotions. It is not because He is blind to your potential or deaf to your prayers. It is because your revealing is not about your fame, your comfort, or your validation. Your revealing is for one thing and one thing only: His glory. Everything God does is designed to reflect His nature, His kingdom, and His purpose. And until your life is aligned with that reality, the stage you desire may remain in waiting. You were not created for applause. You were not designed for likes, followers, or fame. You were born for purpose, and that purpose has always been to bring heaven into earth, to be a living, breathing representation of the glory of God in your generation. So when God reveals you, it is not just an announcement to the world, it is a statement to the spirit realm that His glory is about to be displayed through your life in a new dimension. Many people desire to be seen, but few are ready to be sent. There is a difference between being visible and being validated by heaven. God is not looking for celebrities, He is looking for vessels. He is not interested in building your brand. He is interested in building His kingdom through you. And when the moment of revealing comes, it will be because heaven has determined that you are now ready to carry His glory and not your ego. This is why the process is so intense. This is why the delay feels so long. God has to burn out of you every desire that competes with His glory. He has to strip you of the need to be noticed so that you can be trusted to be effective. He has to crush every motive that would cause you to use His platform for your personal gain. Because when He reveals you, you are no longer representing yourself. You are carrying a dimension of His presence that cannot be contaminated with self-promotion. When God reveals someone, it is never random. It is prophetic, it is strategic, it is tied to a divine timeline and a specific assignment in the earth. You are not revealed simply because you have talent. You are revealed when your heart is purified, your posture is correct, and your life has been shaped to reflect His character. The stage is not a reward, it is a responsibility. And God will not elevate someone who will trade His glory for their gain. Moses was hidden for 40 years before he ever stood before Pharaoh. And when God finally sent him, it wasn't so Moses could become famous, it was so that Egypt would know who Yahweh is. Every miracle, every sign, every wonder. It wasn't for Moses' resume. It was to declare the name of the Lord in a land filled with idols. Your revealing is not just about your arrival. It is about God making Himself known through your obedience. So when you're asking, when will I be seen? God is asking, can I be seen through you? When you're asking, when will they recognize my calling? God is asking, will you still glorify me if they never do? The true test is not your ability to perform, it is your willingness to reflect. The purpose of your revealing is to reflect the nature of God in such a way that when people encounter your gift, your message, your presence, they encounter Him. You are not just a preacher, an artist, an entrepreneur, or a leader. You are a carrier of glory. You are an instrument in the hands of the King, and He will not share His glory with your pride. That's why you had to go through the fire. That's why you had to walk through the valley. That's why your name had to be forgotten. So that when He lifts you, you won't take the credit. You'll know beyond a shadow of a doubt that it was not by might, not by power, but by His Spirit. God's glory cannot be cheapened, it cannot be commercialized, it cannot be manipulated. It is sacred, it is holy. And the reason your revealing has taken time is because God has been making your heart holy enough to host it. He's been working in you so that when He reveals you, you don't just echo culture, you demonstrate kingdom. He's making you clean, not just clever. Anointed, not just admired. Set apart, not just successful. When God reveals someone for His glory, it causes a shift in the atmosphere. It awakens something dormant in the people watching. It breaks yokes, not just attracts followers. Because glory is weight. Glory is power. Glory is the evidence of God among men. So your gift alone is not enough. Your charisma alone is not enough. God will wait until you're not just gifted, but glorified in His image. A reflection of His righteousness, not just a display of your personality. That's why your story has been so intense. That's why your trials have been so specific. God was customizing your wilderness so He could personalize your revealing. He was making sure that every ounce of self-worship was burned away. Every trace of comparison, insecurity, and performance mentality had to die in the desert. Because when He brings you forth, you are not coming out as a brand, you are coming out as a burning bush. And when people see you, they will say, this is holy ground. When the world sees someone truly revealed by God, it shakes the foundations of normal. It causes people to ask questions they never considered. It provokes change, conviction, repentance, and transformation. It does not entertain, it awakens. And that is what your life was meant to do. You were never called to fit in. You were called to disrupt. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to stand out, not for your sake, but for His. You carry something eternal. You were marked before you were born. Heaven has been watching over your development, not because of your potential alone, but because of the assignment tied to your revealing. There is a territory in the spirit realm that is waiting on you to rise. There are chains that will not break until you step into place. There are people whose destinies are tied to your yes. That is why this is not about you. It has always been about Him in you. This is the hour where God is revealing sons and daughters, not just celebrities in the church, not just influencers with Christian quotes, but true sons and daughters who live for His glory alone. People who walk in both power and purity. People who love the secret place more than the spotlight. People who have been through hell but came out smelling like heaven. These are the ones He is revealing. These are the ones who have been processed in the dark so they can carry the light. So if you feel hidden, don't panic. If you feel overlooked, don't be discouraged. God is preserving your purity for a purpose. He is not late. He is exact. And when He reveals you, it won't be subtle. It won't be small, because His glory is never minor. When He puts you on display, it will be so clear, so undeniable, that everyone watching will have to say, "Surely the hand of the Lord is upon this one." Let them question your silence. Let them mock your obscurity. Let them assume you're being left behind. What they don't know is that God is reserving you for something greater than attention. He is reserving you for glory. And when the time is right, your revealing will not point to you. It will point through you. And the world will not just see a gifted person. They will see a God who still raises the humble, still honors the faithful, and still reveals Himself through those who are willing to be vessels. In the end, there comes a moment in every destiny when heaven interrupts the natural order of things. A divine decision is made, not because of man's qualifications, not because of timing in the eyes of people, but simply because God has decided. When God decides, everything changes. Delay loses its grip. Rejection is reversed. Closed doors swing open. The same people who ignored you are forced to recognize you not because you begged for it, but because the King has spoken. When God decides, the natural is overtaken by the supernatural. What made no sense yesterday becomes your new normal today. What others said would take years happens in a matter of moments. Because God does not ask for permission to bless you. He does not consult with your critics before He promotes you. He does not need man's timeline to manifest His will. He speaks and it is so. He declares and it becomes law. One word from God can reroute a lifetime of struggle, delay, and confusion. God can change your season in a moment. One divine yes can override years of rejection. One touch of His favor can cause people to look at you differently, opportunities to chase you down, and doors you never knocked on to fly open before you. And the beauty of it all is this: it's not about what you did right or wrong. It's about the sovereignty of God. When He decides to raise you up, even your flaws can't disqualify you. Even your past can't hold you. Even the enemies that tried to stop you will end up watching you walk in what they said you'd never have. That's why you can't afford to panic when it feels like nothing is moving, because in the background, God is setting the stage for something only He can do. He's aligning people, places, and timing. He's working in silence while preparing a moment where everything will shift in your favor. Not gradually, but suddenly. Because when He decides, change is not optional. It's inevitable. Think of Joseph. One day he was in prison, forgotten by man. The next he was standing in the palace, second only to Pharaoh. What happened? God decided it was time. He had been hidden, processed, and humbled. And when heaven's timing aligned with destiny's demand, everything changed. Not slowly, not gradually, suddenly. So don't be discouraged by delay. Don't be intimidated by closed doors. Don't be disheartened by silence. Because when God decides, you don't have to chase anything. Everything He promised will start chasing you. Favor will find you. Glory will rest on you. And the same story that once looked like a failure will become a testimony of divine reversal. All it takes is one decision from God. And when He decides, everything must obey. Time, people, systems, even the enemy. They all bow when God decides to move.